and on the line from Bitterbirds, it's our good buddy Adrian Fedkiw, and he was just listening to our conversation about the Philadelphia Eagles. And Adrian, I don't know if you got an opportunity to go to the open practice on Sunday, but what are your initial observations that you have read so far, that you have seen so far from this training camp?
Yeah, I wasn't able to attend the practice on Sunday. We'll be going this Sunday, but what I keep hearing about, some of the corners are struggling. I'm a little bit concerned about Patrick Robinson. We'll see how that situation plays itself out. I'm hearing a lot about Greg Ward. I'm hearing a lot about Marcus Johnson, the two wide receivers. I'm hearing Shelton Gibson, the fifth-round pick, is really, really struggling to the point where he looks like the worst wide receiver on the roster right now. So that is a little bit surprising. We'll see how the running back situation plays itself out. I heard you guys talking a little bit before I came on the show, because there's like 5, 6, 7 backs in the mix. So you got to pick 4 of them. We'll see what happens. Ryan Matthews looks like he's going to be on the way out, so I do agree with you guys.
Adrian.
But interesting training camp so far.
Yeah, and so you mentioned some of these later picks that are not really, filling out. You mentioned one wide receiver there that was kind of can you fill us in more on this 5th round draft pick, this wide receiver, and then maybe Matt Collins too? Have you been hearing about North Carolina wide receiver Matt Collins?
Yeah. Matt Collins is looking good apparently. He's a guy that is going to be more of a special teams guy, and he's a great blocker. So think like Riley Cooper, but a better Riley Cooper, because he can actually catch the ball. So Shelton Gibson is a guy that's like basically a go route guy. He's a fly route, 9 route guy. That's basically all he did at West Virginia. And I'm hearing he's dropping a lot of balls. His route running isn't looking good. So that, I'm not liking that from Gibson. So
Adrian,
go ahead.
we heard the same thing. And the fact is, when the guy's just doing a one-on-one and he can't even catch the ball directly, and it's certainly with this team burned with Aguilaritis from last year, I don't think the Eagles are going to have a very long leash with somebody who can't catch the ball.
Yeah, I'm with you there. I mean, it sounds like he is even going to make the practice squad. That's the crazy thing. That's the crazy question I'm hearing. Is he even going to make that?
So,
if he can't catch a ball with no defenders, then what's he going to do when it actually matters?
Adrian, I have a question about 2 players. One is Nate Gary. What do you expect from Nate Gary? Now he's transferring over to trying to be a linebacker. You have Nigel Bradham. Michael Kendricks might be departing, so then you might have a gaping hole at that linebacker spot. And then the other guy I wanted to mention is LeGarrette Blount. Do you see LeGarrette Blount averaging over 15 carries a game? Do you think that it will be a running back by committee sort of situation?
Yeah, to start with Blount, I definitely think it's going to be a running back by committee. I definitely do not expect him to get more than, say, 20 carries a game. I'm thinking like 12 to 15. That'll be like a good range for him. I'm also hearing that they're using a lot of dual halfback sets during practice with Pumphrey and Sproles on the field at the same time. So I do think they're going to be using a lot of that short passing game as de facto run. Some swing plays in the flat, screen game, all that sort of stuff. And to get to the linebackers, depth at linebacker is a little bit of a concern here in Philly. We'll see what Nate Jerry can do. Now, we've seen this trend over recent years, the Deion Buchanans of the world, the linebackers are getting smaller. And according to Pro Football Focus, I believe Jerry was rated as the second best safety last year in college football. So we'll see what he can do.
One thing, Adrian, is
for preseason.
We actually had a chance to meet Nate and interview him. We were doing something with Under Armour at the Combine.
Yeah.
And Nate was an incredibly humble guy. I think the city's really going to like him. They like his story. Really a Midwestern kind of guy. He did not know, when we were there, he didn't know he's going to be transitioned to linebacker, but he's a big kid. He looked to be about 6'3", and I know that they're working him out hard. And the fact that you have a linebacker who can actually go out and cover some tight ends and running backs, that was a big problem that Michael Kendricks had. He couldn't cover shadow last year. But as far as Gary's concerned, Spence, what were your thoughts in having interviewed Nate?
I think Nate's going to have to bulk up, but I think Nate is athletic enough to cover the position. And I think he's fast enough to be able to be a linebacker. But it's just strange because, you know, at Nebraska, he was a guy that would be, you know, could really cover really well. So, you know, Adrian, I wanted to also get your thoughts kind of on this team. And it seems like last year, you know, when you had Carson Wentz, it seemed like there was a lot of buzz around the preseason. But what are you looking forward to as the Eagles are going to open up preseason? I believe it might be next Thursday. You know, who are some intriguing candidates? I guess Derek Barnett you're probably going to be looking at, and the corners. Yeah. What do you want to see in this preseason here coming up?
Well, just to reference Derek Barnett, something that I want to see from him is developing some secondary third pass rushing moves. Because right now he's got the speed rush. He's really, really good at that. And right now, the sack record for the Eagles for rookies is 6. So I'm looking at that mark, and we'll see what happens. Joey Bosa last year had 10.5 sacks. So going back to the secondary pass rush move that I was talking about, Bosa has like 3 of them. So you look at that, maybe it can translate with Barnett if he can develop some more moves. That's something that Jim Schwartz has been talking about during training camp, really trying to develop some more moves for him. So we'll see there. As for other candidates, I'm going back to the cornerbacks. I know I keep stressing about that, but I'm worried, man. I'm not hearing good things about Patrick Robinson. There's a lot of youth in the secondary, at least at the cornerback spot. So if Patrick Robinson can't do anything, I've got major, major concerns here in the secondary.
Yeah, and you look at the defensive line, you know, Connor Barwin is out. You now have Chris Long, and it's just hard for a guy like Brandon Graham to replicate how special he was last year. I think Timmy Jernigan's is a really solid addition. I like Vinny Curry and the depth that he can bring. But I look at this defensive line, and the Jim Schwartz defense is so predicated on the success of the defensive line. And I just don't know if it's going to be as dominant, you know, with Chris Long and a rookie and Derek Barnett. I mean, do you think this defensive line can be, you know, at times last year like a difference maker for this team?
Yeah, and I'm going to go back to the cornerback for a second, because last year when it all went downhill, the quick passing game was what the Eagles couldn't stop. The cornerbacks couldn't stop that. So this year, I mean, we'll see. Geez. I'm really, really concerned. If you can't stop the quick passing game, the pass rush can't get to the quarterback. So it's almost moot.
Right. You look at the Eagles and their first 4 opponents. You know, I'm going to be honest. You know, I think that Andy Reid and the Chiefs, they played that Thursday game at New England. And I think that they're going to definitely lose to New England. Usually, the Super Bowl winner always wins the first game of the inaugural regular season matchup. Then Andy Reid, we all know, with 14 days to prepare off a bye week, the guy is dynamite. He's going to be 0-1 off of a bye week. I think that Kansas City game is going to be difficult. The Redskins game's a toss-up. The Giants game you could possibly win, but then Phillip Rivers seems like the kryptonite to the defense we were talking about. So as you look at these 4 games, you know, what are your expectations? Could this be 2-2? Could the Eagles survive this stretch? Because all 4 teams, I think, you know, provide problems.
Yeah, I think the first 6 games is going to be difficult for the Eagles. If they can get out of that 2-2 over that first 4, I'll be happy. The rest. This is a team that the Eagles have struggled against, obviously, over the last couple of years. Maybe this is something, if they can go into FedEx Field, win that game, maybe it's something that can set the tone for the entire season.
Adrian, thank you so much. Adrian from Bitterbirds, and a special announcement next week for everybody listening. Adrian's going to be joining me in studio. It's going to be fantastic with Philly legendary YouTuber E-Rock as well. So, Adrian, a little sneak peek of next week, man, and thank you so much for joining Rover tonight, man.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Next week's going to be a blast. Can't wait.
On ESPN Radio, that's Adrian Fedkiw from Bitterbirds, and we thank him for joining us, previewing a little bit of Eagles ball. Now